telling you, Israel still doesn't go to heaven even during the fifth eon. The heaven is not for Israel. Simple. Earth equals Israelites. The New Jerusalem comes out of heaven. And just when you think, oh, poor Israel, we're up there gallivanting amongst the stars and the rings of Saturn, in and through and in, around, in, through. We're just going to be blowing past Saturn. Forget Saturn. It's one of the most impressive planets, but forget it. The spot of Jupiter, fantastic. I love it. I'm not going to talk bad about it, but what you see when you look up into the sky at night, that's like the welcome mat of the celestial world. What have I called it before? The junkyard. It's space debris compared to where we're going. I talked about cities. Yes. I talked about powers. Talked about organized governments. Yes. The Celestials are full of all these things. Good morning, everyone. This is Martin Zender. You have come across the Revelation series, possibly on purpose, I hope. I'm starting another week into the unveiling of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ exists right now, but he's veiled. He has been veiled for 2,000 years. This will not always be the case. Those people who are mocking God and saying, where is he? They're going to wish they had never asked that question, because God will be piercing the veil of anonymity and hiddenness, and he will be unveiled through his Son, once again, Jesus Christ. Only this time, Jesus Christ is not coming as a humble little baby or a carpenter in Nazareth learning how to make birdhouses from his daddy, but he is coming as the one who has been given all authority. When Jesus left in Matthew 28, he says, all authority is given me in heaven and on earth. And that is true. It is true. And he has all authority. But here's the key. He has not yet exercised this authority. But he will exercise it big time on this earth when he comes back in flaming fire, dealing vengeance upon those who are unbelievers. Vengeance, yes. And those who have worked steadily to demean him, to degrade him, and to deny him. It's all part of the process. They're eventually going to be saved. Just not yet. All right, Nancy Holland update. Nancy Holland is going to be here in South Florida. As I said, she creatively extended her South Florida vacation by falling down a step, breaking her hip. She has received a new hip, a new and improved version of the one that had been compromised by a little bit of osteoporosis there, and now she is rehabilitating. And it's hard work. It's a struggle. So she's going to be here for another 2 weeks. But not to worry, my friends. I, Martin Zender, am going up to Deerfield Beach every day to spend time with her. We're going to have a pizza this Saturday night, and we're going to watch a movie together. And so the goal is to get her well enough to go home. But, before I promised her that I was going to take her out to a nice restaurant down in Key Biscayne. There's a really nice place down there where you can look over Biscayne Bay and see the city of Miami, which is a sparkling jewel. Reminds me of the New Jerusalem a little bit, of what I imagine the New Jerusalem to be, which is a joke. Whatever I imagine it to be, it's a joke. I made reference to the city of Oz a few days ago, and that the New Jerusalem is going to make Oz look like Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and truly it is. But I'm using this dinner with Nancy at a place called the Rusty Pelican. As I'm holding that out in front of her, I said, you got to get better because we're going to the Rusty Pelican. You see, we thought this hope dream was dashed of having a meal together at the Rusty Pelican. But I'm deciding now that, we're still going to do this. So get well so we can go down to the Rusty Pelican. So taking care of business here. I'll get tomorrow I'm going to get the address of the hospital for you, so you can send her a card of well wishes, maybe more than one wish you have for her. And so if you if she does like speed up her recovery and gets out of here soon, that card will be forwarded to her home address. Anyway, she will receive your greeting. So the unveiling, chapter 21. The holy city, New Jerusalem, descends out of heaven. This is verse 2. From God, made ready as a bride adorned for her husband. Today's the day. I'm going to comment on that. Been saying I'm going to do that for a while now, and I hear a loud voice out of the throne saying, Lo, the tabernacle of God is with humanity, and he will be tabernacling with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be with them. Looking forward to this part. This is the new section. I haven't read this yet, I don't think. And he will be brushing away every tear from their eyes. I got to comment on this now. Tears are a mercy of God, much as laughter is. Something is so amusing that you eventually can't hold in the mirth. And when you can't hold in the mirth and amusement any longer, you burst out in this involuntary, really, reaction called laughter. Laughter is the weirdest thing. We make noises. You remember Mary Poppins, that song about her Uncle Albert? He loves to laugh, and it talks about how people laugh differently. Like some people laugh with their noses, sounding something like this. Some people laugh through their teeth, goodness sakes, hissing and sissing like snakes. And on it goes. Different people have different laughs, and laughing is a universal language. Isn't that weird? There's no such thing as laughing in another language. I suppose like the Japanese would laugh in a slightly different way. No, I take it back. The Japanese laugh the same way we do. Some Japanese laugh, ho, 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 ho. Some of them laugh, It's insane. And I suppose on any part of the globe, laughter is universal language. So now turning to tears. Tears are the antithesis of laughter. When you have so much grief inside of you, so much anxiety or angst or sorrow, you involuntarily break out in tears. I am astounded and amazed. Some people tell me they've never cried. I don't get it. Their organs must be being eaten alive. Their kidneys, their liver, their lungs, their heart, destroyed for not venting. Laughter and tears are both a way of venting. Now, tears, it's bittersweet, isn't it? You always feel better. Like when you're sick and you vomit. Vomiting is the thing nobody wants to do. Who wants to bend over and spew the contents of their stomach? Who wants to see leftover pork chop? Who wants to see what they had for dinner again in a juiced down form that smells of bile, which is the famous substance in the liver that breaks down food. The liver secretes bile, sounding something like this, and it breaks down your food. And when you regurgitate it, it comes back. This is another involuntary reaction given by God for relief. And you always feel better after you throw up. The process of throwing up is horrible, but you feel better afterwards. I'm comparing this to tears. The process, when you cry, it's so horrible. It's like the worst moment. You wish you could die. And when I see other people cry, it makes me want to cry. Just like when I see other people laugh, it makes me want to laugh. When I see other people vomit, it makes me want to vomit. Yes. And so this is human empathy coming forth. So with tears, it's a deliverance. You eventually you feel better after you cry. Go on, dear, have a good cry. And we all cry. And why men don't cry, I have no idea. I've seen grown men cry. It's a beautiful thing. I'm known as the man with the onion in his pocket because I cry all the time, but I'm an emotional. I'm not. I was going to say I'm an emotional person, and I am in a way, but I'm logical first. I'm a practical person, but of course, all these things, all the considerations of life, all the experiences produce emotion. So I just let it all hang out. It's delivering, but it feels terrible. So look what God's going to do. See, I was planning on talking about the bride, but I can't get past these tears. Brushing away every tear from their eyes. There's a verse somewhere in the Old Testament where God remembers tears. This is so delicate and so wonderful of a loving Father that He is not absent from you in your sadness. He is participating with us in our sadnesses. He makes note of it. You know, when it says, Jesus talked about the sparrow falling from the sky, and it doesn't happen apart from your Father. So a sparrow falling from the sky is the equivalent in my world here this morning of a tear falling from your eye. And God is a participant in it, and He doesn't forget it. He is present with those who are sorrowing. He is near to those who are grieving, and He's going to make it up to you. He's going to wipe away every tear. And so people ask me all the time, are we going to remember things that happened to us here? Yes, we're going to remember it, but it won't be a bittersweet memory. It'll be a memory. It'll be a positive thing when you look back and you see how God was not only with you through your tears, but in a way He's participating in it with you. It's kind of like I'm sitting with Nancy at the hospital. I'm in a chair next to her. She's in her bed. I'm in a chair. We're talking. I go down to physical therapy with her. I'm her coach. She has the physical therapy person there, but none of those people are very good. I'm kind of upset with them in that they're not cheerleaders. They're not like, yeah, good job, Nancy. They're just kind of going through the motions. What's the matter with these people? So I'm there cheering her on, telling her, great job. I'm telling her to push it. I'm saying, push 3 millimeters past what you did yesterday. You need to break into your discomfort zone, which is the opposite of your comfort zone. So God is even more intimately involved, enmeshed in our sorrows. And so all these tears that we've cried during this wicked eon for our loved ones who have died, for any other loss in our life, for the pure frustration of living when you want to do something so badly, start a business or write a book or just something, and your hopes and dreams are dashed and you cry, you weep tears of frustration at your inability to do what you want. This is not forgotten by God. And on the new earth, there will be no more of these tears from the eyes. Even though it's a gift of God, it's a gift that's necessary on the heels of emotional trauma. All emotional trauma is going to be gone on the new earth. And this is the eon 5, that's going to last for a really long time. And one of the reasons tears are washed away is that there's going to be no more mourning, no more clamor, no more misery. The former things have passed away. All these things, I got to talk about every one of these things that's going to be passing away and be done with on the new earth. You can't say this even about the fourth eon. There are still people dying during the fourth eon. There are still tears. There is still some mourning. It's all modified. It's all mollified and modulated and controlled and less. It's damped down, but it still exists. So the 1,000 years is an imperfect time. It's not satisfying to me. But here's the great news for you, members of the body of Christ. Well, number one, you know this information. Number one, you know that God's going to make it up to you. So you can cry with purpose, even as much purpose as you laugh with, because you know that God is going to make it up to you many, many, many times over. So just knowing this is helpful. But now, 1 Corinthians 10:11, I mentioned this verse earlier, but today I'm going to take you to it. Paul is using examples of Israel, and he says, all this befell them typically. So all the things that happened to Israel were a type, and we're to learn lessons from this type. It was written for our admonition. This is Paul writing to the nations. They're not Israelites, these people he's writing to, but Paul is using things that happened to Israel as an admonition to them. Like, here's an account of what happened to the Israelites. Now use that let that be a lesson to you. It was written for our admonition, to whom the consummations of the eons have attained. Right? I told you that was in the scripture. Now I'm actually reading it to you. I didn't make it up, did I? No. 1 Corinthians 10:11. The consummations of the eons have attained to us. What does this mean? The consummations of the eons are the best part of the eons, because it's the part of the eon that produces the fruit that the earlier part of the eon sowed. The early part of the eon, you sow a fruit or a crop, and the end of the eon, it's the fruition of that crop. So we see here it's even better in the fifth eon because we don't even have to wait for the consummation of that eon to reap fruit. The fruit starts coming in out the gate of eon 5. So it's an exceptional eon. But every good thing in this eon has attained to us now, has come to us. We are, spiritually speaking, living on the new earth. I'm not teaching some freaky doctrine now that you're supposed to deceive yourself into thinking that you're in some alternate reality. This isn't a Tony Robbins stupid teaching where you try to trick your mind into altering a reality to make yourself feel better. No, I'm fully a disciple and a believer in feeling what you feel, not being a denier of emotions. But what I am telling you is that in spirit now, in our apprehensions, in our realizations, we can so anticipate the reality of a time where there is no more tear, no more mourning, no more clamor, no more misery, no more death, that it can affect us when we think on these things, as Paul says. Do not think upon bad things, miserable things, sad things. Think upon high things. Think upon elevated things. Think upon the new creation. Paul says the old has passed away. He's speaking proleptically. He's calling what is not as though it were, so that we can have such a real picture of it. We can go there in our mind's eye, much as the Apostle John did. We can go there not in body. He wasn't even sure if he went there in body or in spirit. We're not going in body, but we're thinking on it. We're thinking of the outcome of all these trials, and then we're camping on the outcome in our minds. And this is going to really help us. Believe me, I'm telling this to myself as I'm telling it to you. I need all the help I can get to get through this life. And here is a huge help. To think about these solid, amazing changes, benefits, miracles, realities of the new earth. Taking these things that are going to happen, guaranteed, this stuff's going to happen, guaranteed. Taking that guarantee and pulling it into your life today and wearing it as a clothing, a saturation of the mind with these thoughts. Think on these things, ladies and gentlemen, and not the things seen by us today. That which is seen will bring us down. Faith takes us to a world that is not yet seen, yet in God's mind, and now I want it to be in your mind, these things are more real than anything now observable.